Hello gamers, Pat here. Welcome to a tutorial for Bolt, which is a Unity asset. Bolt is a visual scripting tool that allows you to make stuff happen without actually writing code. And you do it by using flow graphs, which are this type of nodes, as you can see here. But before we begin, don't forget to also go to gamerpad.com. This is my website. Because I usually write, whenever I'm making a video like this one, I'm also writing a written tutorial, mainly because I have a tendency to talk a lot in this type of videos and I tend to explain way too many things. So if by any chance there is something that you want to come back to see how I did it, you can go to my website and check it out. And I also there you'll find the other tutorials that I did in the past. That's one thing. Second, if you want to check Bolt, click the link in the description. And now let's actually begin. Bolt. So as I've said, Bolt is a flow graphic tool that it's actually like really cool. The people who know me that know that I actually love this type of things. I'm a bit logical myself. I've always been technical. I fiddle around with programming before, and I am going to start to learn C# right now because I do have to learn it that way. But what I love about this type of visual tools is because I can see exactly what I'm doing, and even sometimes when I don't know exactly how to do something, because it's visual, I can right click, I can see a menu with all the API instructions, and I can be okay, this is kind of like what I need, because in my head I know kind of what I want, but I'm not really exactly sure how. And this is something that these flow tools actually allow you to do a lot. Because it's visual, it allows you to see a list with everything that you can do, and that way it's easier for beginners to pick it up. However, just because it's visual, don't think that you do not need to know Unity or a little bit of programming and how you can do stuff, because you do need to think logically, you do need to think like a programmer, but you are doing the only difference is that you do it visually, and this actually helps you a lot. So I haven't actually since Bolt is already installed for me, I don't actually have that screenshot to actually show. Actually, I do have it. This is a screenshot that I took. Whenever you install Bolt, you will get this Bolt setup wizard. And what I love about Bolt is that it's asking you if you want to see a human naming convention or a programming naming convention. As you can see, in the human version is transform get position, while here is transform dot position get. It's the programming way. If you want to do it as a programmer, you do it this way. And this is great because, for example, since I want to learn how to program and I need to learn the API, seeing things like this already helps me learn those API commands and so on. But if you are, for example, don't interested in that and you only want to make stuff happen using Bolt, you can use the human convention. And that's actually something great that I like about. Second thing that I like about Bolt is the documentation. The documentation is easily can be found on this website, and you also have a forum where you can report bugs and you can give ideas and other stuff like that, and that's actually great. Another thing that I need to mention is that the first version of Bolt actually came out in 26 July, and right now we are in 2nd December, the time of this recording, and Bolt is already at version 1.2.1, and there have been a lot of improvements over the past couple of months. And I've been actually I wasn't really in a rush to make a video, mainly because I was waiting for some features, and one of that features is the drag and drop features, which I will show you later. But again, Bolt is actually evolving a lot, so this tutorial might not be so much up to date, which is why this is only the first part. And yeah, go and check my other future videos that hopefully I will do. So anyway, what I wanted to show you actually, if you guys saw, if you guys saw me before, maybe you know that I've already done a video about, for example, another visual tool like Flow Canvas, and in that tool I created something like this. It's kind of like a really small Plants vs Zombies clone, only that I didn't bother like finishing the whole thing. I only implemented some mechanics, and those graphics are by Noobtoots. He actually has a written tutorial in C#, and I saw that tutorial and I was like, okay, let's try to do that with visual tools, and I only got inspired by it, and then I just flew with that and did my own thing. And this is basically what I'm going to try to do right now. In this first part, it's not done by far, but I decided to show you what I did yesterday, and then I'm going to progress a little bit, and then I will show you that other thing, and that way you can maybe see a progression and maybe how I'm thinking, and maybe what other new things I find out. And also, by the way, Bolt is right now on sale at 50% off, and that's kind of like a really good deal. So let's actually start with something really easy. I have this main menu thing that I mainly did to play around with the Unity UI. But as you know, you have these buttons. Those are basically buttons. If I click play, and okay, it's starting. As it's a button. Whenever I click something, if I look at the console, if I press exit, it says quit. Options doesn't do anything right now, but if I if I press play, it's loading my second scene. So let's actually show you how I did that. Everything, it is like super easy. It is like the introduction to Bolt. As you know, whenever you have a button in Unity, you can do an on-click event, right? And as you can see, it's targeting this game object, and it's basically doing a flow machine trigger Unity event. Keep this in mind. And it's basically sending this string start game, right? And now let's look at this graph actually. Whenever you want to create a new flow, you just go to a new game object, create empty. Let's leave it like that. And you can just write flow, and there you have it, flow machine. And if you click edit graph, it's already there. This is the flow machine, and you can make stuff happen. And let's actually try to do something really fast. We are doing it into the update. Let's do a log, debug log, and the message is going to be let's do a variable of type graph, and we do it a set, and it's going to be of actually I don't think this is like the proper way to do it, but yeah, I will actually show you immediately after, like, why I didn't like this thing later. Let's actually come back later at this, and you will see exactly what I mean. But basically, this is how you create a graph, and yeah, it's really easy. You just right click, and you have all the things that you want to do, like events and so on. But let's actually go back to the logic before I lose my flow. As you can see, check this out. Unity event start game, and what it's doing is scene manager load scene, and it's loading the scene with the name game. As you can see, I have scenes, it's game there, and I've also added the scene over here because it's required, right? Over here I have this Unity event exit, and as you guessed it, the exit button is sending this message, this Unity event, and it says application quit. But because we are doing this in the editor, you know, Unity won't quit, so we are doing this log, as you can see. But it says super unit debug log, and it does say quit here. And actually, maybe I got confused a little bit. Let's log. It's going to require a variable, and we are just going to create a set one. And if I write something test here, will it work? If I connect it to the update, and if I click play. The reason why I'm okay, it's basically writing null. I'm still like not fully. I'm a little bit confused about some parts. Basically, this we are setting the variable, but since it's a string, actually this is how you do it. Anyway, I'm stupid. The variable doesn't matter anyway because we don't want to rename a variable. This is a dynamic variable, and of course that's the way to do it. But as you saw, it's still writing null. What am I doing? Okay, the variable. Oh. I think it's like this. It's still writing null. Anyway. In that other visual tool that I use, whenever I had this, I already had like a way to input a string, and I didn't like this whole idea of, or maybe it's actually like this because you first want to set it and then you send it to the log, right? Okay, now it works basically. So for a log, there were a lot of nodes to use, right? Like, why do I need to preloads? But I've been told that the debug log in Unity, it requires an object, right? Something like, or I'm a bit confused right now. Anyway, and this is why you can't really put a string directly, or can you? Let's actually try this out. Wait, we are learning together. Test something like that, and then we don't have to set up a dynamic variable, and it works anyway. Yeah, we've done it. Yeah, now I remember. So why do I require two nodes? I was like, this is going to be a little bit like cumbersome. Even that, as you can see when you click play, Bolt actually has animation, and it actually shows you exactly the flow, how it goes, and you can see that test this string is being sent over here, and you can see this type of stuff. Sometimes I like to do debug logs because I have multiple flows that are sending messages. I want to see the order that they go in. I was like, what can I do with this? And Laszlo, the developer of Bolt, suggested you create your own macro and do a super unit. And basically a flow can be of two types. Like the logic here, we actually have an embedded flow, and this embedded flow is actually only available on this game object. And this game object, this flow can actually reference stuff from the scene. However, you can also create it as a macro, and the macro is actually, as you can see over here, actually asset files. And the thing with the asset files is that actually you cannot reference stuff from the scenes, because so you have to do things a little bit different, but it's very powerful because you can reuse things. And this is what I did with the debug log, and this is kind of like the first thing that you can do yourself. You just create a new flow, you make it to be as a macro, and then you right click, you do input, and you see input in nesting, and then you right click and you write output, and you do output in nesting, and then you select the input. Well, I'm already having the control inputs here from my from the ones that I've already set up, but basically it's like we have this input called log. It's a key, it doesn't matter, I even hide it, but because it's like a flow, we do need an input, and it's an input that requires a string that I've called message, right? And then this output is just going to do a simple output. It's not going to pass anything, but what's going to happen in this macro is this debug log, right? So the debug log is actually accepting a string of a message. So if I go into my logic, as you can see here, I do have an input here that is saying quit, right? So whatever I write over here, and I can actually reuse this. Like, check this out. I can do right click, I can do nesting, I can do a super unit, and right now the super unit is blank. I can just click edit and do a new one. Right now I can do a new one, right? But I'm not going to do that. Or I can just switch it to a macro, and I can just specify another super unit. And as you can, just like that, I now have a new thing to log, just with that node, and I've done that myself, and it's kind of like, hey, it's not bad, it's pretty nice. But switching back at the Unity event, right? This is something that that the button itself in Unity sent a message to the logic with the message exit, right? But we also have this event called on button click, and you just specify the button. I can just do this. And this is in a way pretty cool, because then it doesn't require me to, if I believe, like, right, if I do it right now and I click exit, it's working, right, as you can see. But what if, like right now it's sending a flow machine trigger unit, but we shouldn't actually, it shouldn't matter because we are not using this anymore. So will this work? It should work. And if we do it, it works. Why? Why does it work? As you can see, let's go back to the graphic. And if you click exit, this is actually, in a way, it's great to use this event, because we just specify the event, and this event will see when the button got click, and you don't have to actually specify the message over here in the on click event of the button. So that's something that you can take into consideration. And basically the flow Bolt is an event-based flow chart. Like everything is based on events. So let's actually show you something else. You have various events over here, but you also have the life cycle, which are the events of Unity that you learned on enable, start, update, fixed update, late update, on disable, on destroy. So for also, let's say that we want to quit. Also, when we do this, we can have multiple events doing the same thing. But let's say that we want to quit the game when we press the space bar, right? We go to events. We go to input because this is an input event. We go to on keyboard input, and here we have it. This is the key that we can set up, and let's put it to space. And the action when it's down, when it's hold, or when it's up. When it's down is good. And right now, if we play, and if we press play, hey, it's working. Look, as you can see, it's the flow is only going from this event and not from this event. Oh, it's not working anymore because I deleted the thing. Anyway, so this is kind of like the first part of this whole thing. And now we are actually going to start our proper game, and we are going to go into the game. And no, I don't want to save. And of course, the moment I start recording, the cats want inside, and he's the first cat. At one point, the second cat will arrive if the first cat that just came in will not want to go back out, because that's how they work out. So anyway, this is what I have right now. It's actually pretty easy. What I've done is that whenever I click one of those tiles, I will get a console message. Grass got clicked, grass got clicked, grass got clicked, as you can see. And I actually know exactly what grass got clicked. And that's good to know for later. And then I also have these two UI buttons with the two flowers. And when I click one of them, that flower gets instantiated, as you can see over here. And it will allow me later to build it on any of those grass tiles. But this is something that I haven't done in the Flow Canvas tutorial. I haven't actually got to make this. But this is actually kind of cool because you can now see what UI button you clicked, and then you can just click it. It's much more natural. And in case you want to cancel this, you can right click, and as you can see, that that object got destroyed. And this also works for the firing plant or for the sunflower, of course. And this is a bug, as you can see. I haven't tested this. I only tested it right now because I was curious what's going to happen. Yeah, and we will need to fix this. But we won't. We will not do this right now. But it's actually something cool that for me to fix later. In a way, it's cool when you get problems like this for you to solve. But sometimes it can be frustrating. So let's see exactly how I accomplish this. Let's first look at the grass tile. I've actually created this canvas over here of grass tiles made with columns. And as you can see, this column is just a prefab grass tile, and it's actually having a macro, a flow macro, which is actually this one. So let's actually click edit graph, and this is the grass tile. This is the flow. One thing to mention is that this flow is actually having a box collider 2D, since even at the game right now it's in actually a 3D project. It's in 2D. That has been set up to be a trigger. The difference between a normal collider and a trigger is that if it's a collider, it's collided with something else, they won't be able to touch themselves. They won't be able to go through into themselves, right? So if this was a normal collider and I have a zombie coming in, he won't be able to actually go over the tiles. And what we actually want is just to have a trigger so we can detect whenever a mouse is down. So this is the first thing that we need to take into consideration. An event that's called on mouse down. And again, we need to specify who exactly, like who is going to on what, right? And it's on self. When something is going to click me, we are going to do this. Trigger custom event. And we are going to send this event name, grass tile clicked. Keep this in mind, right? But we need to send it to something, right? We need to send it to something. And as you can see, The moment I've unlinked some stuff, this changed color to warn me that it's missing some stuff, some references. We also have this option over here, dim, that's actually it's going to dim the nodes. You can't really see them later because of my webcam. Anyway, it's going to dim the nodes that are not actually used. This is also something really useful. So it's going to send an event to what? To self. We don't want it to self. We don't want to be the ones that are receiving this. Why? Because our whole logic is actually in this game manager, where I actually have multiple nodes that I will actually show you today. And this is going to evolve into something more. So the event that is going to be triggered is this one, grass tile clicked. We want to trigger this. That's also having an argument that we are not using right now, because this is kind of like where I left it off. So as you can see, let's actually be sure that I'm editing not the prefab but the flow itself. How can we send a message to the game manager? In a way, and the reason why I'm asking this is because this is a macro. I cannot reference objects from the scene, because the scene is something dynamic. It might change, or I might have multiple scenes, right? Unity doesn't. You cannot link, whenever it's coming to an asset, you cannot link something from the scene within the asset. So I can't do something like, I don't know. I don't know if this is. I forgot to lock the not this one, the grass tile edit. Let's actually lock it. I'm not sure if that I can drag and drop it. There is a bug that's going to be fixed now. You can't drag and drop stuff from other game managers. Doesn't matter. Anyway, from other game objects. So I can't actually make a reference to this in the scene, right? So what I did is I'm doing something like you can actually click here, drag and drop it, and then you can see all the stuff that you can do this, starting with the actual, you see the game object icon. It's there, the icon is there. You can create a new game object, or you can go to game object literal. No, not literal. Code base, you can go to Unity engine, and then you can go to where's game object, and you have all the stuff that you can do with the game object. And of course, what we want to do actually is find game object with tag. You don't have to click it like I did it right now. You can just go like this, find game, and it's already there. It found it, and I can just press enter, right? Or you can, without dragging, you can just right click, find game, it's there. I found it. And the reason why I've done it like this is that the game manager actually has a tag, game manager, and it's the only, this is important, this is the way I'm doing it right now, it's the only game object that will have that tag. So now I'm drag and dropping this, and what I love about Bolt is the way that you can do this custom events thing. You can send argument, and you can do as many as you want. And I can send multiple. Let's say that I need to send 5 arguments. Maybe I need to send an integer of 5, whatever. Maybe this grass tile will have a variable like health, and I want to send them over. This is something that we will use later. But right now I'm only sending 1 argument, and it's of type game object. It doesn't matter right now because it can be anything, but as you can see, I'm setting the self. I'm setting itself. Basically, whenever I'm clicking a tile, the tile itself, it's sending himself to the game manager. And if we go to the game manager and we check the argument grass tile clicked, which is this one, it's going to do a log that I already show you how to do, and it's going to do some checkups. But this is the argument that we can actually do. If we do it like this and we click play, whenever we click, we should see the object that we clicked. Will it work? In a way it kind of worked, but it's expecting a string, and this is not a string. But as you can see, it's grass tile 4, grass tile 3, grass tile 1, grass tile 5. You see, it's working. Only that because of the, it's a string, and the 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 super unit itself has been designed to accept a string, as you can see here. That's why it's behaving like this. It's giving that red message. But we saw that it's happening. The argument is coming, and with this argument later, I will store this into a variable, and whenever we want to plop the plant onto the tile, we have a reference to that tile. This is what I'm trying to accomplish. But now, let's actually step a little bit back and think about the overall what we are going to, what we accomplished already, and maybe later, or maybe not, I will tell you what we want to accomplish overall. The next step was to implement the buttons, and the buttons are simple UI buttons. As you can see, flower buttons. It is a game object that I've set up a horizontal layer group, and that way those buttons are being automatically matched like this. If I delete this, they will be right one after another, and of course I can go manually and then drag and drop them like this, but it's a good idea to actually use a horizontal layer group because it's automatically spacing themselves for you, and later I can add multiple buttons just like that and they will be there. So you're taking into consideration. So I have a sunflower, which is also a button, but I'm not using anything over here, as you can see. But each of those plants actually have their own flow machines. So let's actually see it. If we go to click edit graph, we see on button clicked. We use that thing that we used before, and because we are using this event on button click, we don't have to specify a Unity event that's going to be sent from the button to this. It's just, hey, whenever you click me, I'm going to do this, and this is what is going to happen. It's going to send an event to the game manager called flow UI click, and it's going to send one argument. And what is it going to say? Send. It's going to get self. So it's going to get the self, the game object, the game object, and we are going to take the name of the game object, which is a string, and we are pasting the string later. The reason why I'm doing that is because I want to know what button you clicked. Is it sunflower or is it firing plant? I'm not sending the game object itself, because then I will just send the button, the game object, this thing. I will just send the whole thing, and I don't want that. I just want the name, and that way I know exactly the plant that you clicked. That's what I care about, the plant that you clicked, right? So let's actually go to the game manager. Let's actually clear first the log so we don't see that red. Let's go back to the game manager. We click edit because we locked it. And let's see that this is the event that we just did. It's the flower UI clicked. And this is something that I kind of struggled last night, but it's done, and it's actually kind of intuitive once you get the hang of it. Like, it's not hard to use Bolt. It's just you need to get familiar with Bolt itself a little bit, and then you can see how you can accomplish stuff. And then the universe is your limit. We have this argument. We are doing two things over here. We are doing the debug log, the super unit that we already showed you. I'm using the same thing over here. We are sending a log knowing that, hey, you click sunflower or you click firing plant, and then we are having this super unit called find plant, and then we are setting, as you can see, this super unit find plant is it's inputting a string and it's outputting a game object, and then it's setting the variable of that game object, and then it's setting the variable plant UI clicked ball true. And now let's talk a little bit about variables. The variables can be of multiple types. Graph variables are variables local to the current graph. They can only be used to the current graph. Object, those variables can be used, are shared across the current game object, so you can have multiple graphs on the same object. The scene, the app, and the saved. So there is kind of like a weird bug thing right now, because I see it over here, and actually those are different. I'm not actually sure exactly why Anyway, doesn't matter. I will report this later if this is actually a bug. But the reason why what I'm doing here with the plant UI clicked ball, basically, I want to know when I clicked a plant. Why? Because whenever I clicked a plant, I have this late update that's going to follow the cursor. It's what's telling the plant that I just instantiated to follow the cursor. And since it's a late update, it will always run. And I don't want this code to always run. I want this piece of follow cursor, and I will talk about this later. As I said, this video is going to be a little bit long because I tend to explain everything. And yeah, anyway. So this is why I have this checkup. If plant UI clicked, it's true, then I'm going to get that plant to follow the cursor. Simple as that. That's why we are doing this. Now, let's actually go and look at find plant. Because why are you not? Okay, anyway. And right now when you're looking at this, it seems a little bit maybe stupid for you, because it looks like so easy and like, what, this code was complicated? Yeah, maybe the first time I did it was complicated because I had a problem. I wanted, and this is the problem that I had to fix. I know the name of the plant that you want to build, right? To instantiate when you click on the UI. Because you click here, sunflower. You click here, firing plant. I know the name. And the name is coming through the input. However, I actually have two prefabs, one called firing plant and one called sunflower, and those right now are just some simple. It's just a sprite that has nothing, no collider, nothing. It's just a sprite. But how do and my problem was, how do I reference? How do I associate? Let's go back to the find plant and I lock it. How do I associate the string with that actual object, right? Like the prefab. And I actually tried to do it with we have here control switch on string, and this switch on string can have multiple cases, and I have something like write it something like this, right? And the input was coming through here and the string was coming to here, and then what I did is go through sunflower to do something, basically set a variable. I was trying to do something like variables, set an object variable, I believe, and we do a set, and then we can actually go to the assets and be like sunflower. And I was like, hey, okay, I can reference it. It works. And this is a dynamic variable. It can be blah, 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 blah. And then I actually duplicated it. I set it up to be the firing plant. And then when I did this and I wanted to connect both of those nodes, I saw that you can only have one input. Like to the output of this thing, you only have one input. And I was like, this is a little bit stupid in a way, because I do have a switch string. So it's only one of those switches is going to happen anyway. So why how to do it? And I did find a way to do it with multiple nodes like that, but then Laszlo, the developer, came with a simple suggestion. You just need a select on string and not a switch on string, and the select, as you can see, is going the other way around. You have multiple ways that are going into one node and not a switch which is going into multiple nodes, right? So this is how I did it right now. The string comes here into the select, and the select is looking like, okay, what string did I got? Oh, I got sunflower. Then I'm going to do what's over here, and you can actually go to do multiple other stuff, right? Oh, it's fire plant. Then I'm going to do this. And my cat took a shit. You see, this is how the cat sabotaged me. The other one wanted inside. The other one took a shit and it's smelling like, what the freaking hell. Anyway, I will have to fight through this. So another problem was that I only wanted a reference to it, like in the file, to do it. I didn't want to instantiate it over here, because right now I'm instantiating this is going to pop up into the world. So I only wanted a reference. So I know I've done it like this, and then it worked. But anyway, after I get this, whatever happened in that switch, this got sent over here in this one, this flow, right? And basically the output is a game object, which is either going to be sunflower or firing plant, and later you can add multiple other plants, right? And let's go back to the game manager. God, it smells so bad. And this is going to, as I said, this is the one that's triggering, and it's firing plant, and we are going to have, hey, sunflower, let's say. And the variable plant to build is going to become sunflower. And the plant to build, and this is the weird bug. The plant to build is supposed to be, it's a graph variable. So it's supposed to be of type game object. I have already set it up like this. And it's working, it's okay. But if I save the scene, it becomes null again. But everything works fine. I'm not sure if this is like a bug or whatever. It works fine. So the variable plant to build is becoming that game object, right? So what I'm going to do over here, since this becomes true, right, and the plant is already instantiated, like if I delete this and if I click play and I click on the plant, it's going to instantiate at 000, I think. Yes, this is 000. Right? So it works. But my problem was that I didn't want to instantiate them in the find plant. I wanted to instantiate them over here. Truth be told, you can instantiate them not on the screen, something way where you don't see them, and that's how it worked anyway. And then what I supposed to do is move them in the correct spot later. That can still be happening. It's not a problem. It's just weird when I was thinking about it. Anyway, now we get to the set variable plant UI got click. It's becoming true. So this late update will do a check up here, and we'll see that this is true. So it will do this. It will do follow the cursor, get variable, plant to build. So what we set here, it's going to follow the cursor. And this is the second, actually is the third, the fourth graph that we are going to see together. Follow the graph, and this is also something that I've done myself, and this one I've actually done by myself, and I was like really proud. It was, like a feeling of accomplishment. And maybe I've done it incorrectly, and maybe you have suggestions. So if you have suggestions for anything, not just this thing, write in the comments below or email me or whatever. If not, I don't know, enjoy. So what's going to happen here? We have an input. If we go back to the game manager, we have an input. As you can see, it's accepting an input, which for us is the plant to build, which is of type game manager, game object, right? So it's going to receive that. If this was happening anytime, this was always triggering like an error, because it's trying to move something that doesn't exist. So this is why we also do that branch check. So we have an input where we are getting to transform a position, right? We are always going to transform position, and we are going to the output, but the output is going to be, we're not going to pass anything. This is what does the movement anyway. Oops, this is what's doing the movement. So the most important thing over here is the input mouse position. This is what it's taking the mouse position in on the screen. But something that we want to do is screen to world point. Transform positions from screen space into world space. Not going to go into the details over here, but it's something that you have to do when you want to see exactly the position of the world space. Well, anyway, it's in the Unity manual, right? It's in the API. It's something that's actually in the Unity API, and I would love it will be like possible to click something like this. Hey, Laszlo, maybe a suggestion, or maybe there is already in and I don't know about it. A suggestion to click a node like this and actually go to the Unity API, because if we go screen to point, as you can see it's here. Hopefully you didn't saw any of my porn. As you can see, it's over here, and we are also using this camera main thingy. So this is also something that I've set up myself. You see, it's requiring a camera. I could drag and drop the camera, but actually I can't. You know why? You know why I can't? Because it's a macro. It can't references. You can't have a reference from the scene into the macro because it's an asset file. This is the classic example. You can't actually go here. You see, it's none because it's a macro. If it was an embedded, you could do it. So we are also doing this basically. I've done it like this. I remember that camera. You can search for camera and you see Unity and it has this arrow. It's because when you click it, you see all the stuff that you can do with the camera. And we have you have current, you have main, and we are using the camera main. So it's going to take the camera main, so it will know it will know exactly to which camera to do the screen toward point. But then I went to a problem. I was getting this and I was passing this vector, right? As you can see here, the by the icon, and I love this about Bolt. I was passing this directly over here, and it didn't work. And actually, let me show you why not. Well, I mean, why not show you? I was doing it like this, and let's see what's going to happen. I clicked it. It got instantiated. I can see it over here, right? I can see it. So it's following my cursor, but where it is? Where is it? So another thing that I've learned was that let's go back to the follow cursor. So this is why I'm passing the screen to world point into this expose vector tree. I believe that in flow canvas it's called extract vector tree. So the problem was that camera is at -10. It's a 2D game, right? So everything is on Z0, but the camera itself it's at -10. So what was kind of happening in a way is that the object was instantiating itself at -10 on the Z and not at 0 where I want it. And I was like, oh, this how to do it? And I started to search extract. There is no extract vector tree. And then I was like vector tree in Unity engine. I see the arrow there. I pressed enter and I was like vector tree literal expose vector tree. Could this be it? And like, oh yeah, nice. So basically I'm getting the vector from here and you can expose everything about it. And what we care about is the X, the I, the Y, right? And we don't care about the Z of the camera. We manually set the Z to 0, which is what we will use. So we only care about the X and the Z, the X and the Y. And this is what is going to be screen toward point without the Z. So we are now passing those three vectors and we are going to transform this. So if we go back to the game manager, this game object is going to be following the cursor like that. And I was like, oh, and I was like feeling so good about myself. Now, the last thing that I want to show you, hopefully is the last thing because this video has been long enough. Hopefully this was a fun experience for you as it was for me to make the video to show you this type of things. In general, in games, hopefully you saw everything because my webcam it's there. Let's actually go to follow the cursor, and maybe you should have been able to see it. Let's go back to the game manager. Whenever with this type of games, right, when you want to build something and you have a mouse, you select something with the left cursor, and then something you use the right click to cancel it, right? And this is how this works. You click it, and then when you don't want it, you right click, and it's automatically deleting it. So this is the function for the right click. I actually named it right click, and this comes from two events. It comes from one mouse input on mouse input event, right? When it's set up to right click, and the action when it's down. Whenever immediately when you press it down, it's going to trigger this whole thing. But also I created a custom event called right click. Why? Because I'm going to trigger this later. For example, I will trigger this when you actually which we might have some problems, but it's for me later to fix. Because when you click it, like when you build a plant and the plant becomes part of the tile, right? For example, you want to uncheck to set the plant UI click boolean to false, because so that way the game object will not keep following your cursor. That's for one thing. Second, we are also destroying the plant to build, right? And then we are destroying the game object plant to build, and then we are setting the plant to build to null. And this is where the problem will be, I think, or maybe it shouldn't matter. It will matter, but I will need to take it into consideration. The plant to build, when I finally build the plant, this variable should become irrelevant to a point where the plant that just got builded and it's on the tile is not really referenced over here at all. And the reason why I'm mentioning is that when I will destroy this, I will actually destroy the plant that was already builded, and we don't want that. So I will have to look at this later. So basically, after we destroy the plant, maybe this is supposed to be irrelevant. Why am I still doing this? Oh, this is the... No, it's the same... Maybe this is actually irrelevant, because the plant to build, which is a graph variable, as we see here, it's getting destroyed, so it should be null already. Or maybe this was an old habit by me, because this is what when I've done this with Flow Canvas, I had a multitude of variables, like the string. I was actually not using dynamic variables, so I was having a reference with the string of the plant that got clicked. I was having a reference with the game object of the plant that just got clicked, so I had to click all of those. So maybe this one is irrelevant right now, but anyway, as you can see here, you can actually group flows and you can drag them around, and you do that by pressing click and then dragging. And what's great about Bolt is that you can change the color to this to the graphs, and it's like, hey, look how pretty it is. I'm not actually sure how to delete it. Oh, like this. you select the group and you press delete. I was like concerned that it's going to delete the whole thing, including the nodes. So anyway, this is kind of like the introduction in Bolt. Hopefully this was like very useful to you. If you have suggestions, write in the comments below or email me. And what's supposed to come next, it's the ability to build the plants. The plants need to come on the tile themselves. So the parent, this is how. Let's actually unpause this. Actually, unplay this. As you can see, the tiles are actually game objects, right? So when I click a tile, I know which tile I clicked, and what I need to do is get that variable, the plant, the game object, and set it as a parent to the grass tile. That's how I build it, right? That's how it becomes in that position. And in that moment, we delete the fact that the UI got clicked. So the plant that just got parented is not going to follow the cursor anymore. One thing, but also we will need to do a checkup, so we don't build multiple plants on the same tile. So when we do a click, we do a check to see if the grass tile already has a child. If it has a child, it means that we probably already have a plant there. That's how I did it in the past. And then we also need to have a variable like gold, and then the plants themselves, we need to have their own flow, like how much they cost, how much health they have, how much DPS, damage the firing plant will have. And then later we will implement the zombies, which are zombie spawner, and the zombies will start working on the lanes, and then the firing bullet will start to animate to actually shoot the bullet that will hit the zombie. And then the sunflower, every couple of seconds it will spawn a sun, that if we click the sun we will get some more money. And basically this is kind of like the whole scope of that I want to implement. So anyway, thank you guys for watching this. If it was useful, even if it was useful, please write in the comments, because it makes me happy, because I like to help people. So anyway, thank you guys for watching this. See you soon. Goodbye.